The Golden State Valkyries have won 3 of their last 4 games. What allowed them to find success on their road trip, and with the trade deadline looming, do they need to make a move to help secure a playoff spot? Find out as Locked On Women's Basketball Valkyries report starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball's Valkyrie Report, a special edition show on the Golden State Valkyries, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball Valkyries Report, a specialty podcast all about the Golden State Valkyries. I am Matthew Walter, one of your hosts of Locked On Women's Basketball Valkyries Report, as well as a beat reporter over at The Next covering the Valkyries. Thank you for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day. And remember, Locked On Women's Basketball is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. On today's episode, I am joined by the outstanding Danna, play-by-play broadcaster of the Valkyries on 95.7 The Game, and Stanford's women's basketball play-by-play man, to talk about how the Valkyries found success on their recent road trip despite some low numbers, and if they need to make a move before Thursday's trade deadline. Kevin, thank you so much for joining me. I want to start with what impressed you the most about the Valkyries on this 5-game road trip where they went 3-2 with 3 single-digit wins.
I mean, that's the thing right there, Matthew, right? Like I did kind of the aggregate score just in my head. They were minus 45 in 5 games. So you're average losing each game by 9 points, and they went 3-2. I mean, you could easily be 0-5 when you're minus 45 over a 5-game stretch. They found a way to pull out the games that they needed to pull out. Like the Atlanta Dream win, I think was just like, icing on the cake. That was, even though that was the first one, like really you wanted to beat the Mystics for sure. You would hope you would get the Sky, even though they're on the back end of a back-to-back. And then if you could just split with the Aces, which the next game's coming up on Wednesday, you'd feel okay about that. But to get the Atlanta Dream win, especially after losing by 31 to Connecticut the game before, and we should say it was a pretty rough schedule to have to undertake. You play a Friday night in California and then a Sunday afternoon and Sunday morning board, a body clock, Sunday morning body clock while you're in Connecticut. Like that was tough. But 3-2, it doesn't matter if what's the line from Fast and the Furious? It doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning. Hey, winning's winning. They got it done, Vin Diesel.
Yeah, and I think if you had asked most people going into the road trip, like, what is your expectation? 3-2 is probably the right answer, right? You'd probably expect you beat Connecticut, you beat Chicago, and then you'll pick up a win in one of the 3 other games. I don't think if they'd said like, hey, you're going to go 3-2, but 2 of them you're going to lose by, 20 and 30 plus, they'd be like, this doesn't like add up that it's Connecticut and Las Vegas. So I think you're right. And it's funny because last week on the podcast, I had seen Akeda on and we were talking about how important that game Tuesday against Atlanta was. It was a measuring stick game, right? Like, can you bounce back after a bad loss to Connecticut? Can you show that you're ready to compete? And even if you didn't win the game, can you compete? And I think you're right. Like the fact that they were able to get that win with some big plays down the stretch from a lot of different people. And I think that's really, to me, sort of what this whole road trip entailed was the Valkyries have shown that they can win games at home. They struggled on the road to win games where they had to close the game out, right? There were so many games, I think of a Phoenix game, a different Atlanta game where they had fourth quarter double-digit leads and they blew them. That happened in Atlanta, right? They had that 10, 12-point lead going into the fourth quarter, and Atlanta came roaring back. They didn't score a lot, but when they needed the bucket the most, they go to Cecilia Zandalasini. She hits the game winner. They win the game. I think, to me, the ability to close out the game, not only just close out in general, but close out on the road where they have been not as good this year, was probably the most impressive thing I saw from the team in that road trip.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Chechi bucket with 3 seconds to go when they had scored 6 points all fourth quarter was huge. And look, I know Chicago's not at the level of Washington or Atlanta this year, but you go from scoring 8 points in the fourth quarter on the Tuesday game in Atlanta, 6 points in the fourth quarter, hold on to beat the Washington Mystics. Then you score 21 in the fourth on the back end of a back-to-back and have to come back in that game to win. And yes, it is a Chicago Sky team that has been really struggling, but still back end of a back-to-back, there are easier back-to-backs in the W as well as you could have a home and home back-to-back, or you could have a DC Chicago back-to-back. Like Not the easiest of circumstances. You add Kyla Charles that day to your team. I've really liked Kyla Charles these 2 games. She kind of hurt the Valkyries when she was on the wings. Like she had some plays in that game. Like Kyla Charles was an X factor, so it was nice to see her get picked up. But yeah, no, I'm with you, Matthew. They found ways to win games. Like before that, really the only one they had pulled out on the road was one of those Sparks wins when they won in overtime on the road, like at the beginning of June. So to have a close game like that, there's also the second Liberty game that they could have won, but lost early on in the season. So nice to see them close out games on the road, and now up to 6 road wins, and you have 4 more home games out of your 16 down the stretch. So you got to like those odds if you're the Valkyries.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, and we talked about it a little bit, right? You get those 2 like 1 possession wins against Atlanta and Washington, D.C., but you win them different ways, right? Like you have a big lead in Atlanta, you kind of blow the lead, but you hit a big shot late in the game. Against Washington, like I don't think Washington scored. They scored 1 basket in the final 7.5 minutes of the game.
Yes.
Like Natalie Nakase talks about being a defensive team, but if you go back and rewatch that fourth quarter, like the Valkyries defense was on a string. Now they couldn't put the ball in the basket to save their lives. They make a late shot from Janelle Salon. They win the game, but the defense was so good. They make Brittany Sykes take a tough runner off of the advanced timeout there at the end of the game that she doesn't make, giving the Valkyries the holding on for the win. But just the way that they found a way to win late in games, like you said, they scored a bunch of points late offensively against Chicago, and then they play solid defense against Washington on the back-to-back, just not doing it the same way. And I think to me, it's not doing the same way with all these people hurt, right? Like, so just Chechi hits the big shot against Atlanta, then she misses the next 3 games. Tiffany Hayes, I think, got hurt late against Washington. She missed the last 2 games. So now they went from missing 2 players to now missing 4 players, 3 of whom are their most veteran players. Like, to win games like that off of some of these sort of missing players winning in different ways, I think that was probably, on top of closing out games, probably the most impressive thing was doing it in different ways with people missing.
Yeah. I have a quick question about the end of that Washington game, because we're calling that game off the monitor. We're not hearing what Megan McPeak and Christy Winter-Scott are saying. To me, it looked like Washington dribbled the basketball and then Sydney Johnson called timeout. Did they use a timeout and a reset? Because like our live stats didn't really say. Because if they'd only used 1, they shouldn't have been able to advance the ball in the front court, if I know my rule book correctly.
So to my understanding, the argument, there was a lot of different things happening in different games, but it sounded like they said that he initially didn't want to take the timeout, but then I think it was not him who called the timeout, but it was Brittany Sykes who called the timeout.
Oh,
she was the one who made the timeout call from the floor. And I think he was saying no, but she said yes. And so they awarded it to her because she was the one calling it. And then they end up advancing the ball. I think that's how it all broke down from what I remember seeing it. I was watching it on a small screen, so it was hard to tell in the live action at the moment to like get the exact little minute details. But from my understanding, I think they awarded the timeout to Brittany Sykes, and that's what allowed them to advance the ball. Obviously, the Valkyries hang on for the win. The moment doesn't matter as much. Yeah. And I think the other thing from this road trip that is probably the most important thing is what we've seen, the growth or just the explosion of Ileana Rupert, right? Like she's had some big baskets. She's had to start now because of a couple of these injuries, but her ability to score the ball, shoot the 3, I think I did the math just now. She's taken like 45 shots and only 16 of them are 2s. Like she's shooting the 3 ball at almost 50%. She's 6'5". She can guard in the post. She rebounds. She's just been like this. And for someone her size, her shot is so quick. And that has just been so hard for opponents to guard. And I think we're seeing the growth of her play. You know, we knew what she could do coming over, but I think she's already exceeded the expectations and then come in a right moment when the Valkyries needed someone to step in with the loss of Kayla Thornton.
Yeah, and the thing about her shot, you mentioned how quick release, like she doesn't bring it down. So she like catches it from here, she shoots from here, makes it that much tougher to block. So yeah, I mean, her 3-point shooting has been great for a team that's been at the bottom or near the bottom of the 3-point percentages statistical category. And I expect them to continue to go north. I mean, especially if Ileana can continue to shoot around 50% from three. She has been awesome for this team. Absolutely. And yeah, had the 8 rebounds in a recent game as well. You'd like to see those rebound numbers continue to go north. But I've been really impressed with Illy. You mentioned Janelle Salon's defense on Brittany Sykes down the stretch. I mean, she was the primary defender all game against Brittany Sykes. Sykes goes 2 for 11. So she's locking down an all-star player, in that player's home court. I've just really been impressed with Salon. Her defense, in addition to her ability to kind of find shots for herself, even if she isn't super efficient, just to be able to create shots when maybe not much else is going on offensively.
Yeah, and she hit some of those shots where you look and you go, there's no way this, like the one she hit to win the game against Washington, I think,
yeah,
when I'm like, there's no way this is going in. And it just like goes beautifully right over the rim into the basket. I think I talked about this last week with Zena, but just the 3 French players the Valkyries have really hit their stride here since we've come back from the All-Star break. Yeah. Obviously, Carla Late hasn't been shooting it great from 3, but she's been a lot more aggressive getting to the basket. Janelle has been finding her rhythm offensively, and then you add Repair. It's been a really, really deadly trio for the Valkyries from that group from France that has really sort of started to gel together as we advance forward here. And they're going to be key now as we deal with some of these injuries to some of these other players for the Valkyries. We're going to take a quick break, but after the break, we're going to look at how the Valkyries should they make a move before this trade deadline on Thursday. We're going to talk about that after we come back. But first, time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. Golf is all about good times with good people, and good flavors, of course. The grape, ginger, lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This order is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. Welcome back here to Locked On Women's Basketball Valkyrie Support. I'm Matthew Walter, joined alongside Kevin Danna, play-by-play radio man for the Valkyries. All right, Kevin, trade deadline is on Thursday. The WNBA, unlike the NBA, has not been known for a ton of moves at the deadline, but we've seen moves already this season. Just the other day, Dejanay Carrington got traded to Minnesota. We've seen Alyssa Smith from Dallas. Lee Yaru got traded from Seattle. It seems like every move involves Dallas. But the Valkyries, they're an expansion franchise. They have some assets. They're obviously trying to get to the playoffs now, but they're also going to have to, play for the future. If you're the Valkyries right now, are you looking to make a move at this deadline on Thursday?
I mean, personally, I'm always a move averse kind of person. I always just tend to like who the team has. Like, I think they have a really good group right now. Obviously, they have an injured group right now. Hopefully they get Hayes and Chechi back sooner rather than later. Mo Billings probably out another 2.5 weeks. I think it was 3-4 days ago when they announced the 3 weeks out. You're gonna get some company man Kev talk here. Like I hate to say it. I've never kind of like, working for a team, I don't like saying, oh, we should trade this person to get someone else. You know what I mean? And I genuinely do think they're in a pretty good spot right now. There's been enough roster shuffling as it's been without trades for the Valkyries this year with the Eurobasket, with players getting injured and now hardship contracts that you've had to sign people to. So I'd like a little more continuity, but that's just me.
Yeah, and I think it's hard because if you look at it, I think their 3 most tradable assets are Kayla Thornton, who's out for the season, Tiffany Hayes, who has battled through both a broken nose and now has another injury, and Monique Billings, who's out for 2.5 more weeks. So I think coming into the right before the All-Star break, you would have said, oh yeah, they have 3 veterans. Let's see how this first, week and a half goes. If it goes poorly, hey, we can see if one of them is something that we can trade away for a draft pick or a young player and then keep going like this. Well, the week and a half went okay, but then your 3 assets all got hurt. So it's hard to say, okay, we can go trade one of them for a younger player or a draft pick because now, Tiffany's probably your only tradable asset at this moment because I don't think you want to part with anyone under the age of 26 or 27 because trying to build for the future. So I think if they were to sell, which I think at this point you're in that weird cusp of we're not a seller, but we're probably not a buyer. If you're going to somehow make a selling move, you would probably trade Tiffany Hayes. The more interesting thing to me is, okay, do you want to go make a fringe on the edge move on a buying perspective? Do you feel like you need to trade something to become a better team? I think the answer is probably no. But if I were to pick a space, I don't have a specific player, but a place that they probably need to make a move. They got to find more scoring on the wing to replace Kayla Thornton because losing what she gave you from just every aspect of the game, you're not going to be able to, again, replace her with one person, but just to find a way, because again, we've talked about how many times have we seen them score single digits late in the fourth quarter or late in games where they need baskets or have just these lulls on offense that cause other teams to pull away from them. That's where having just another scorer on the wing who is somebody that fits with your system could be useful. But again, it's hard because they're kind of in this, we're right on the cusp of one or the other.
Yeah, that's tough. Hey, if Vegas wants to give up Asia Wilson for a draft pick, you can sign me up for that. Or if Minnesota wants to give up a fee for a draft pick, I know she's going to be out a couple weeks. I think I can wait a couple weeks for Nafisa Collier. But I'm joking. Obviously, those teams aren't going to do that. But yeah, so the hope with Kayla being out is that you get more wing scoring from players like Janelle Salon and Tiffany Hayes. Unfortunately, right now, Tiffany Hayes has missed the last couple of games due to injury. So, and Salon has shown definitely some scoring chops. She's shown certainly a willingness to take those tough shots down the stretch and has had success in those areas. You mentioned the Washington game, of course, the Phoenix home game that they did lose. She had some big baskets late in that one as well. And so, yeah, just that Kayla Thornton loss was so huge. Having the year of her career, an all-star selection, and then, right before get out of the all-star break to play Dallas, goes down with that knee injury. So, we'll see. I've just always kind of been a move-averse person, especially if you got a team that has such good vibes as the Valkyries have right now. They've already had to undergo enough roster turmoil. If you could keep this thing together, that's always me. I like the players they have, but we'll see what Ohema, Nienen, and company decide to do.
Yeah, and I think the moves they've made on the fringes, just in pickups when people have been hurt or when people went to Eurobasket, those have worked, right? You look at the Chloe Bibbies, the Caitlin Chens, the Letitia Mehirs, the Kayla Charleses of the world. Everyone they've brought in for the most part has come in and had an impact on the team and help them be successful in the time that they've been there. So I think clearly they've shown when they need to make these hardship contract pickups, the people they picked up have been the right people. But I think you're right. I think at this point, they don't need to really make some sort of crazy drastic move. They're not like Las Vegas. They're not like Minnesota. They're not like New York where they need to hit this big home run because they're in a win now mode. They're in hey, we're just trying to figure things out in year one. We happen to be way exceeding expectations. We don't need to change our 5-year plan just because in year one we might be able to make the playoffs. I think your mindset is, okay, let's get our team fully healthy. Let's continue to try to play good basketball. We have all these home games coming up in an area we seem to overtly succeed at home compared to anywhere else in the United States. So let's see, now that we're back at home, now that we can find some consistency and be fully healthy, let's just continue to be ourselves and not try to overextend our fight. I can't remember, Joe Lacob said the first 5 years they're going to win a championship. I think if they were to make a move, that would throw off this 5-year timeline because they've sort of done things the right way. In year one is where, 3/4 of the way through almost. They don't need to then throw the plan into, out the window and do something different just because maybe they can make the playoffs and make history by being the first expansion team in their first year to do it. I think they could do it, like you said, without even making a move.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. Exactly what you said. I totally agree. No need to shock the system, if you will, right? When the system has produced as well as it has. And like, think about it. If you have 10 of your final 16 at home right now, so there's 6-10 on the road, which makes them 8-4 at home. I'm doing some math in my head. If you can go 7-3 in your 10 home games, you basically only need to win one of your last 6 road games to get to 500, which is probably going to be good enough to get into the top 8. So, like, it is a favorable schedule. Now, it's a tough end to the schedule at Seattle, at Minnesota, and some tough home games to boot. But I think you're in a pretty good spot if you're Golden State. So, just kind of sticking with it and seeing where the chips fall.
Yeah, and if you look at, I think they finished the season before they play those 2 on the road. They have 5 in a row at home with the Mystics, a team that they're battling with for the playoffs, the Fever, the Liberty, and the Lynx as 4 of those 5 opponents.
Yeah.
So like that last 7 games is going to be really tough. So I think that's sort of like, okay, we got to get to that point and feel good going into that 7-game stretch that we can close this thing out. Now, obviously, like Minnesota could have the number 1 seed locked up by the last week of the season and just like, all right, we're going to keep Nafisa Collier and Kayla McBride and all of our best players healthy, and that could help the Valkyries, but we won't know that till we get to that point. We're going to take our last break here, and when we come back, we're going to discuss what do the Valkyries need to do in this now next upcoming set of home games to just continue to grow on what they did on that 5-game road trip. But first, ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. I'm always so surprised at how quickly my spending adds up. But with Monarch Money, it's easy to see all my accounts in one place. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Welcome back to Locked On Women's Basketball Valkyries Report. Again, joined by Kevin Danna, the host, or the play-by-play man for the Golden State Valkyries on 95.7 The Game. All right, Kevin, Valkyries have 3 home games this week. Big game against the Aces on Wednesday. Need to start we're looking down the stretch here. We're in that last third of the season. As you talked about, they have 10 more home games where they've been super successful. Finally back home, they had 2 home games the whole month of July. Just how often does that occur? Obviously, there was an all-star break thrown in there. But what do we need to see from this 5-game road trip? What needs to continue and what needs to adjust now that we're finally back at home here for these upcoming 3 games?
Yeah, I mean, if you can get the fourth quarter scoring that you got against Chicago, like something like that, you'd rather not hold on for dear life down the stretch like you did against Atlanta and Washington. Like, it worked in those games. Obviously, it's not super repeatable and not something like, you'd rather have better fourth quarter offensive execution, which they did show against the Chicago Sky. And then you kind of throw the Vegas game out the window with respect to fourth quarter execution because that one was over. But look, I'm looking at these 3 home games, and traditionally you'd say, hey, let's go 2-1. But Las Vegas, I think you got to split with them, so you really want to win that one. The tiebreaker is on the line against the Los Angeles Sparks. You're 2-1 against Los Angeles. So if you can win that game on Saturday, you secure a tiebreaker, and that's going to be an important tiebreaker. I always thought, even though Los Angeles got off to a really slow start this year, that they were going to make a push because they're getting Cameron Brink back. And sure enough, before she came back, they won 5 in a row. They've had some really good wins at New York, at the buzzer, at Seattle in double overtime. Like, this team could beat anybody in the WNBA right now, the Los Angeles Sparks. And it's a 10-horse race for the playoffs right now, if you ask me. Dallas is a little too far out of it. And then they just traded away Dejanay Carrington. But like, outside of Dallas, Chicago, and Connecticut, all these teams are going to be in the hunt for it. And then you obviously owe Connecticut one after that 31-point loss. So honestly, I mean, the goal's got to be 3-0, I think, in these 3 games, just because normally I'd say 2-1, but who you're going up against, you got to take those, because you mentioned that final 7-game stretch, Matthew. That is not easy. I mean, you'd really like to just be able to have to get 2 or 3 out of that 7-game stretch to make the playoffs and not have to go 4-3 or 5-2 down the stretch. So if you could pick one up here by going 3-0, that would be huge.
Yeah, and I also think you talk about it being a 10-team race for those playoffs. I think it's a 4-team race for those last 2 spots, right? You play 2 of those 3 teams right now. Like you play the Sparks, who are in 10th, Las Vegas, who's in 7th, and back-to-back games. And I think, the things you take away, like you talk about finding offense in the fourth quarter, I think you can kind of circumstances unfortunately put you in a bad spot against Las Vegas. Like you caught them off of their worst loss ever. They weren't going to show up and just be flat that next game at home. Like that's not who Becky Hammond has coached. That's not who A'ja Wilson and the Aces are. Like they were going to show up and punch you in the mouth, but you have to not be who you were against Connecticut. And again, I get it. There were external circumstances, but you are professional players. Like you have to be able to show up night in and night out. So now you're back home, comfy place. We know what the fan base is going to come with excitement. Can you get healthy? Can you bring energy? Can you play hard for 40 minutes and find a way, like you said, to be 3-0? And I think, again, we talk about offensive consistency, but also like you now have the fans back on your side. Can you use that to your advantage? Can you go on runs and put teams away because your crowd gets so into it? And then can you make sure that when the moment is the most important, that you execute the right way, that you do things the right way, and you continue to play at that high level that you've shown that you can be at home at the Chase Center, which has been your biggest weapon all season long.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. Got to show up on your home court. I'm just looking a little further down the line. You have a 2-game road trip, Washington, Chicago, this time not a back-to-back. You can split that. So say you go 3-0. If you this is pie in the sky. You sweep this homestand, you split the road trip. You're 18-15 with Atlanta and Phoenix. You split those 19-16, split the road trip. Phoenix, Dallas, 20-17, going into that final 7-game stretch you're talking about. And that kind of puts you in the position, hey, you only need to get a couple of those, or 3 and 4 would be great. Then you're looking at a winning season. So that's kind of how I break it down. Then with respect to the Connecticut game, and look, I agree. Obviously, you don't want to lose by 31 to the Connecticut Sun. Natalie Nicase said, you're staying in a casino in Mohegan Sun, and there's no natural light in a casino. She meant it was like body clock, right? Like a circadian rhythm. That's like your body clock or whatever. I think I'm using the right term here.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. And it's like Sophia Jones, my radio broadcast partner, does a great job. Was mentioning that your circadian rhythm gets thrown off. And so they didn't see the sun for an entire day, I think. And she mentioned that pregame. She's like, next time we go to Mohegan Sun, I'm going to get them out of the casino just so they can see daylight or something. So look, I'm not excusing away a 31-point loss due to not seeing the sun, but that didn't help when you had to take a red eye after the game. So you definitely want to pay them back. And we've seen when Connecticut they've gotten a lot of wins. I think they have four of their 5 wins are against teams with winning records, and the 5th one is Golden State. So it's not like they've eaten up against Chicago and Dallas, that kind of thing. So, but when they have gotten those big wins, they have lost those the next time they have played those teams. So it's not like they've been able to beat them twice. So hopefully the same thing kind of holds here.
Yeah, and I think to your point, just looking at the schedule as a whole, the Valkyries' goal should be, can we get to 22 wins? We need to get to 500, because I think you're right. I think 22, 23 wins is going to be enough to get you into that 8-7 spot and secure yourself a playoff spot. Can you get to 500? Can you get to just above 500? That should be enough to get you into that 7-8 seed. And again, making the playoffs, at this point, obviously the expectations have changed, but if you had told me before the seasons the Valkyries are going to be in the 7 or 8 spot, I would have said, you're crazy. There's no way. So again, just understanding you just have to get to that 500 or so record, and you can put yourself in that spot to, again, get a singular home game. You're going to get a home game if you get to one of those playoff spots. And I think just to give the fans a taste of the playoffs in year 1 would just set this franchise it's already in the right direction, but even more in the right direction going into that second year.
Yeah, I mean, Matthew, give me a game 2 in Ball Hall in the first round, right? I mean, this place would go on fire. Chase Center, I mean, it's already been crazy this year. It's been awesome with the fan support. But you give this team a playoff game at home, I mean, these fans are just going to be absolutely insane. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And I think they could, even if it is Minnesota, I think they might be able to take a game 2 against the Minnesota Lynx at home. And then, hey, you just kind of roll the ball on the court for game 3 against the likely WNBA champions. See if you can shock the world. But yeah, a game 2 in the first round at home would be awesome. And I keep thinking that, hey, Las Vegas is going to pull away. Las Vegas is going to pull away. They have too much talent not to. I mean, it's wild to think that a team that has the talent that they have has lost by 53, has lost by 31, and has lost by 27 to the Valkyries, and lost by 31 and 53 to the Minnesota Lynx. Like, maybe this is who they are this year. Like, they're 29 games into their season. They're 2/3 of the way through, and they're still have been unable to break away from 500. Maybe they are going to be, as you mentioned, a 4-horse race for the final 2 spots. I keep waiting for them to break out of that and for it to be Golden State, Washington, and Los Angeles for the 8 seed. And maybe this really is, as you mentioned, a 4-horse race for 7 and 8.
I think there's an old saying, right? You are who we thought you were. I don't think anyone thought Las Vegas was this, but they've proven who they are. So at this point, you are who we thought you were. So we'll see. Again, like the Valkyries, they need to play well at home, find a way to get 3-0 on this stretch, put themselves in the driver's seat for those last 2 spots. That is all we have for today. Kevin, thank you so much for joining me. Let the nice folks know where they can find you and all the work you do covering the Valkyries.
Yeah, thank you. Add Kevo408 on X/Twitter, at DannamanSJ408 on Instagram. Thanks a ton for having me, Matthew. And then, of course, you want to listen to us 95.7 The Game. Sophia Jones and I have the call for you on the radio.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kevin. I've been Matthew Walter. You can find my coverage of the Valkyries along with all of my amazing colleagues who cover the entire world of women's basketball over at thenexthoops.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for making Locked On Women's Basketball Valkyries Report your first listen today. For your second listen, find the Locked On NBA podcast, where there's no offseason. Doug, Matt, and Hayes keep you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything you need to be the most informed NBA fan. Find Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.